In this video, we will be looking at section 2.8, literal equations and dimensional analysis. So first we'll begin with our essential question. How do I solve literal equations? We'll begin with the definition of literal equation. Literal equation is an equation with two or more with two or more variables. In science, we can often think of it as a formula that states a rule. So a literal equation is an equation with two or more variables, also known as a formula that states a rule. So all we're really going to do is we're going to solve these, and for the most part we'll use our p-om to solve. Some of them get a little tricky, but most of the time we'll be able to just follow that p-om. So let's write that. I want to stress most, because not all the time. We'll see that in one of the examples, but most of the time use p-om. So when I'm looking at number 1, I want to solve each equation for the indicated variable. So we're solving this equation for t. And when we mean solve for, what that means is we want to get t all by itself on one side of the equal sign and all the other stuff on the other side. So the way I'll do this is I'll draw my line, and if I want to get t by itself and I have a minus r, well, I'll need to add r to both sides. There's no like terms to combine or anything, so I'm left, bring my equal sign down, I'm left with t, those r's canceled. And then what do I have on my left hand side? I'm going to have m plus r. And now I've solved for t. T's all by itself. Now we've got all the other stuff on the other side of the equal sign. That's our answer. On number 2, a plus b equals c. If we're solving for c, what do we have to do? That's exactly it. It's already solved for c. This problem's already done. So if I want, I can just rewrite it, switching the c, and go, well, c equals a plus b, and it's solved for c. Now for number 3, I want to solve for c equals pi times d, so I'm going to solve for the letter d. Now, we could go through our p-om steps. There's no parentheses to do with. There's no like terms I can combine. There's no additive inverse. So I'm already down to my multiplicative inverse. So let's go ahead and solve for that. Well, the quickest way would be to divide out that pi do it to both sides. We'll divide both sides by pi. Pi's cancel and we find that d is equal to c divided by pi. Now we have solved for d. So at this point I'd like us to pause right here. Look at number 4 on your own. Try to solve for x. Remember, use the use your additive inverse before your multiplicative inverse. So let's pause here and try on our own. Okay, so hopefully you took the time to try this on your own. Let's look at it together. Well, I'm solving for x. So I'm trying to get rid of this m and this b. Well, we'll use our PM steps. I'm going to get rid of I'm going to use my additive inverse first to get rid of the b, so I'll subtract both sides with the b. And we have m times x and y minus b. Now I will divide both sides by m. So this side, straightforward, we divide by m. But on my left-hand side, I'm going to take this whole y minus b, and that'll be its own numerator. And then we'll divide by m. So the entire y minus b is now the numerator. And then we're left with x equaling y minus b divided by m. Number 7's kind of a way of looking at a formula. And a lot of times in science what we'll try to do is solve for a variable using this little equation skill, then plug in all our numbers. So let's see if we need to solve for the variable first on this one or not. The formula a equals 1/2 times height times the quantity of base 1 plus base 2 gives the area of a trapezoid. Find the missing value using the given info. So let's see what our missing value is and then decide what variable we should solve for. So we have h, we have b1, and we have a b2. h is 12, b1 is 4, and b2 is 8. Well, so what we want to solve for, what's the missing variable that we need to solve for? A. It's already solved for a, so we're ready to plug and chug. So I have a is equal to 1/2 times h is 12 times, open parentheses, b1 is 4 plus b2 is 8. Now we're ready to solve for a. So we'll do our parentheses first. A is equal to 1/2 times 12 times 4 plus 8 is 12. And now we can multiply left to right. A is equal to 1/2 times 12. What is half of 12? 6. And then multiply that by 12. One last step, and we get A is equal to 72. We know we're finding area, so what should our units be? We're not given any units, so what can we use? When we're given no units, we'll just use the word units. And if it's area, what should my units be? They should be squared, because area has the squared units. Okay, number 8's kind of tricky. So if you want, go ahead and pause right here and see if you can do it on your own. There's a reverse PM step in here that makes it a little tricky. So pause right here and maybe try it on your own. Okay, if you didn't try it on your own, I understand, or if you hit a wall, that's very understandable. So let me show you how we're going to do this. Our goal is to solve for x. So that means we want to get all the x's stuff to one side and all the everything else to the other. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to get rid of that minus 2y. So to get rid of the minus 2y, I will add 2y to both sides. Now I have 3x is equal to xz plus 5 plus 2y. Now I want to get my x's over here. But unfortunately for this x, there's a z attached to it. We're going to treat this z just like if it was any other coefficient. 2, -8, 4. But what we see is that we see this xz is positive. So to move it over, I'm going to have to subtract it from both sides. So I'll subtract xz from both sides. Now we have 3x minus xz is equal to 5 plus 2y. And this is where it gets pretty kind of tricky. This is our reverse Piam step right here. If I want to get x by itself, I need to do a factoring or reverse distributive. So instead of distributing in, we're going to pull this x out. So I can pull the x out like that. So I'll have x times 3 minus z is equal to 5 plus 2y. Now since this right here is multiplication, if I want to get the x all by itself, what can I divide by so that there's nothing left next to the x? I can divide both sides by 3 minus z. And then we'll find that our final answer will be x equals 5 plus 2y divided by 3 minus z. And that's how we can solve for x. And that's the end of this video, 2.8 literal equations and dimensional analysis. Thank you for watching.